Welcome to Inside the Mind's Eye. Today our guest is Seye Kuyinu. He's the author of the book This Glorious Dance and currently acts as an agile coach in the realm of software development. The interesting thing about this conversation is although we may move and exist as individuals in the world, Seye points to the absence of a doer or the absence of a self behind our own eyes. Seye lives and experiences himself as this absence. And through the course of this conversation, we talk about what it's like as different characters or roles appear to play or dance in this game called life. Thank you so much for joining. And if you're into this type of stuff, please give us a like or subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And without further ado, I give us Seye Kuyinu.
A while back, I would hear about people's experiences and, would be hungry to have some kind of experience that I can talk about as my, in quotes, origin story. And even though I could lay claim to one, and I'll probably talk about an experience here, I want to caution anyone out there to not look for it. And I say that because it's kind of a trap. It's unnecessary. I should put it that way. So maybe I will start with a story and I'll explain why I'm saying all of this. There was a day, and I write this, I think it's somewhere in the last chapter of my last book. I was taking a walk with my dog, and then suddenly I just realized, oh shit, there's nobody inside here. Oh, there's nobody inside anybody. And I'm like, it's so clear that everything is empty and nothing is doing anything, but also weird to have that realization to say there's nobody here. Then who's saying nobody is here? And it just became so clear that what's happening, if the perspective of my seeing, it's not even owned by me, or there's no me to own it, or it's just so weird. So I had that experience. It was a very very clear, distinct experience that made me, of course, see things totally different. And in some ways that changed how I interacted with how the individual interacted with life. But I realized it's an experience. All experiences start and stop. So there's going to be the moment of doubt. There's going to be the, what was that? Was that really true? And all of that. And I realized all those things, it's just a total distraction from what is clearly happening. And it's the same thing with how I see our searching. I think spiritual seeking, spiritual search is a waste of time. However, we have to get on the path to realize it's a waste of time because what we are looking for, we are distracted by what is actually happening by looking. So books, I have loads of books. I've read it. If you name it, I've read it. Teachers, I've listened to them all. But the act of listening, the act of reading, all of that was distracting from the experiment of actually opening your eyes to what's going on. Yeah.
So is it too far out there for me to assume that you don't actually believe in free will?
I think just talking about distraction again, I think the debate about free will or no free will can also be a very it can be a distraction, and it can be a distraction because if we never had the term free will, we wouldn't know what free will, we wouldn't be talking about free will, right? But we just have to sit down. It takes just sitting down for a moment to realize you did not choose where you were born. You did not choose your race. You didn't choose your family. You didn't choose your the style of thought patterns that come to your head. So some people are, excitable, some people are calmer, or they experience calm. Some people experience excitations internally and all of that. You didn't choose any of those. You didn't choose how you see the world. You didn't choose your path. Um, that's like the first, probably second layer of realizing the idea of non-choice. But then you look internally and you realize you've not chosen how your heart beats. You've not chosen how your digestion works. You've not chosen how to stop seeing when your eyes are open. You did not choose how your legs twitch randomly. Then you sit down and say, oh, I have free will. But what is the thing that says I have free will? The one who argues for or not for free will, is what kind of will is that?
See, that's the biggest thing is like people will debate this, but there's really is no point.
Exactly. It's pointless. And I say it, we can go back and forth, and I'm still going to, go take a shit. I didn't. I mean, the urge came, and I went to the bathroom. you know.
So I'm curious, your upbringing, you said you were raised in kind of a Christian upbringing. That's kind of the language. What you're describing is beyond language. It's the best way I can describe what this experience is it's a yogic state of awareness. It's a unified relationship with what is, and the character appears and disappears, isness, thusness, whatever. It's all, everything's always just happening, and it seems like there's some form of duality in the non-dual experience of being. That there's a me, then I'm not, and then there is, and then I'm not. It's like an inhale and an exhale. So I'm curious with you, once you started seeing beyond the veil of you know, normally we think of an objective reality and a subjective reality. Then you start to see that your subjective reality are objects in the field of consciousness also. So how have you integrated your seeing into your actual practical life? Was there a process there? Were you able to talk with people once you woke up to this awareness? Could you talk a little bit about that?
I would say, well, that obviously, I feel like for all of us, we will have our different stages and phases, and they will continue to happen. Of course, one of the first things that would happen is wanting everybody to know this truth. Argue with people. Want to share this idea. For me, I grew up Christian, and one of the first things that I would do is talk about how Christianity is total nonsense, and you have to be able to see the truth. Religion is just pure nonsense, and all of that. And I realized what I was doing was creating yet another form of division. The if I would use an analogy, one of the more popular analogy in these discussions is the dream. Within the dream, there's activity happening. Within the dream, there seems to be division of the objects, and oftentimes the subject is perceiving the objects, and the objects have their different forms of existence, their or seeming form of existence, and their characteristics and their groupings and things like that. How is that not different than what we have here, with different people having their different practices and their different belief systems and their different modes of operation. I just realized, well, initially I used to, want people to wake up or whatever. And then it's like, oh, wait, how can the character in the dream be talking about waking up to other characters when we are all dreaming? Like, who is it that wakes up? you know so it's in essence, it's I feel like awakening, and I don't claim to, I don't even know what the word awakening is, but that's another thing. I mean, within the context of this conversation, I would say that awakening then is could then be seen as, or my relationship to the world practically could just then be seen as the pure and utter mystery. I don't know what the heck is going on. that's just the truth. So I can't I can't I can't necessarily pull people back and forth, if that makes sense. So I would say that for me, the stages had been trying to convince people, trying to show people this truth or whatever, and then realizing that doesn't even make any sense, to realizing, oh wait, all of this is just weirdness. I call it weirdness. It's just weirdness. There's nothing to do.
100%. I had the same experience, and I kind of learned. It's like you don't wake somebody up while they're sleeping. It's rude, It's
Yep, it can't even, it doesn't even really happen, or you can't even do it. And who would have to wake somebody up?
whoever was doing it needed to wake up. At infinity
Yeah.
until. So I had another question that came to mind, and it left me. Oh, God. Do you interact with an imagined entity, or an ultimate power, or do you have a relationship with the divine for yourself?
Yeah. So, uh, oh, the topics of non-duality. The answer is yes and no. um, and the yes part is, um, it's it's such a beautiful experience to be in relationship with God, and what that to a dualistic mind is that have a relationship. I have a relationship to God. To the non-dual mind, you realize that a relationship signifies that there's a separation. But what if I realize that all of experience is myself? Then the seeming me has a relationship to all that is, which all that is, I can give that the cloak of God. So my interaction with you, my interaction with the world, my interaction with when I wash my dishes and plates, and when I do my laundry, is my interaction with God. And so it's there can be division. Is, I used to hear this a long time ago, like, oh, there's no separation. I'm like, separation from what? I used to hear, oh, you're one with the divine. It's like you're one with, but there's literally no breakage anywhere. there's there's nothing. So if I talk about my relationship to God, I'm really talking about, in essence, I'm talking about the weirdness of experience. It's all weird, and that we're talking about this is freaking weird.
Yeah, I mean, I love how you. I love. I mean, this is what we're doing is basically poetry. We're talking about the ineffable, and
Absolutely.
you put to words the experience in a way that I never, or I haven't been able to. because God is you. Like you framed it out. Like you need to use like all your limbs to describe this thing, because there's three things happening in and two things in under an umbrella of three things. There's just so much going on that you can't. It's absurd. Like it's
Yeah. Oh, one beautiful analogy that usually comes to mind is when the body, when the finger suddenly realizes, oh shit, I am the body. First of all, it starts to tell each of them, like, guys, I am the body. And then the others are like, shut up, you're a freaking finger. Right? And then suddenly the finger realizes, oh no, I'm actually the body, in such a way that the body does not exist without the finger, and the finger doesn't exist without the body. So there's no separation. This is the body and the finger. It's everything.
do you ever encounter anybody in your day-to-day life that you end up having conversations like this with, or
No.
never?
No.
So where does your energy go when you start? I mean, you write. You're an author. Does it
Yeah.
manifest as writing, or?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's I have a Substack. I used to write twice a week, but now just once a week. Yeah.
So can you describe that for me? Like, what does that feel like, getting pulled to create?
um Very challenging to describe, but so creativity, the way I see it right now, creativity comes from oftentimes, well, at least for me, it comes from the spontaneity of a mind that is at rest. Um, and so for me, all expressions, all a lot of my expressions, not all, a lot of my expressions come from that position of rest. So I no longer, even with this, I find that the move and the pull into different things, whether it's commenting on your TikTok, whether doom scrolling, whether being here, all of this seems to be by using Christian language, by grace. So when the urge, or when the nudging to, and it sounds weird when it's like, when I say the urge, it's almost like I'm not doing anything, and then an urge comes, I'm like, oh, that's the urge. It's kind of not like that. It's like that I'm being moved. I've always been moved. I don't know what I was when I was a baby, but I can guess that when I was held in my mom's arm, I was probably moved to leaning closer to her nipples. That same urge is what I see uh, being expressed when I write, or I do music, or I paint, or the myriads of artistic expressions that I do.
Did you have a loving upbringing, unconditional love? Were you surrounded by a community?
Well, yes, for someone who grew up in Nigeria, yes, I was surrounded by community. Unconditional love, I don't think I would not put it as that. I don't think most people in this world have ever really experienced unconditional love from parents and from society. That's something that we we have to. It's very rare for anyone to have. Well, that's my position, my current position.
Sure. Yeah, that's why I was curious about your upbringing. Because I've had this thought, like I've wondered. Sometimes I wonder why I am the way I am, and because I was just thinking while you were talking about the chemistry and the biology of my own conditioning of this body mind, and it seems like, I was brought up what I would refer to as an unconditional, loving environment. I just felt loved, like my whole childhood, and in that sense, it's made me there haven't been very many trauma or troubling wirings in my mind and body that I have to karmically untie. That's why I was curious, because yeah, the way my mind works is I'm always trying to figure out what the heck is going on and whether or not it could be distilled in a way to be helpful to somebody.
Yeah. The one thing I think about, though, when I try to psychoanalyze and try to go back to, root causes and understand why an experience is an experience, is I think about, there's a tree in my backyard, a really big tree. And by the way, I talk and write a lot about nature, because I just see so much coherence between nature and our experience. But here's the thing with the tree: it has loads of branches and everything, and one branch is blowing in the wind, another is, there a little stiff, and the one that's blowing in the wind is like, hey guys, you all need to do more yoga so that you can be as flexible as I. And the one branch is like, man, must be nice to be young. I'm here stiff. Another is like, yeah, I want to be like you. I want to, try to dance like you, to be as flexible as you. And the other one is like, man, I I was born, I was born ready to dance in the way, to dance this way. And the wind is just there, just minding its business. And uh, the branch is thinking that it's the one doing anything when the wind is actually the one blowing everything, you know? And so if there was no wind, there would not be any movement. But then the branch claims that it's doing something when it's not doing jack. you know um it, or the stiff branch that's wondering why I'm stiff, and this is like, it's like sitting there thinking, man, I wish I could do that. Has totally forgotten that that one isn't doing that. Flexible branch is not doing anything, just the way it's not doing anything. So the question then is always goes, I always go back to the question, is anybody doing anything? Can we truly and confidently point to a root cause, or do we get to a root cause and we dig deeper and realize that's actually not the root cause, and then it becomes a inception like situation, right? So I realized a lot of our analysis is done by the mind, and the mind is a very interesting instrument. The instrument of mind is about starts, stops, beginning, and ends. So anything that tries to go to the beginning is most likely the mind. Anything that wants to see something to the end, to finish, is also the mind. So not to say the mind is, I used to think the mind was this, we need to get rid of the mind or whatever. It's like, no, it's a tool. That's what it tries to do. But when we realize that, when we stop the back and forth and realize that the only thing that's truly the only thing that's an expression, a true expression, is this, and we don't even know what it is. I can more or less be more engaged in this than this. Yeah.
That's great. I get kind of when I get kind of stoned when I hear like when you're talking like this. It just reminds me of you said we don't, a disclaimer before the show, we don't claim to know anything that's true or not, but what you just described reminds me of what's true, and it's great because it relieves me of the mental state. It relieves me of the for that split moment in time. I'm relieved by the conditioning of this psychosocial system that is my body.
Yeah, it's no wonder every practice, every practice, every practice, everything that we find to be healing, or we find to be to bring some form of happiness, has to do with getting lost, getting lost in our current experience and not in the tussle between back and forth. So if you think about yoga, asanas, why do people go to yoga class and all of that? Because you're there, experiencing what it is like for you to stretch and for your blood to circulate, for you to be in the body. Right? When we sit down and listen to music, we're bringing ourselves, we're noticing how the waves are interacting with our mind and our bodies. Right? Everything still points back to how we are with the body. Yeah.
Well, why aren't there churches that talk about stuff like this? Why isn't there an organization? Like, why do we have to go read stories? Why do we have to? I don't
we
understand. Like, if it's so great hearing you talk, it's like if I could sit in like a sermon like this, I would be at church every Sunday.
Yeah, I think we're too the mind is very addicting. Well, the mind is addicting to itself, so it consumes itself. So most of our practices, or our going to church, and a lot of religious outfits are there to entertain the mind. That's it.
What I mean, the question comes, like, what is the mind? Like, what is that? What is this thing that's gripping at the past and gripping towards the future? Like if you notice,
Yeah.
can you notice it in your experience when you're like I really want to see this person, or oh, I really wish I had. Can you notice that grippiness that takes you out of the
Oh
moment?
yeah, oh, yeah, of course. But to answer your question, what is the mind? I don't know. I don't know.
How do you navigate with that I'll call it a muscle. I don't know what it is. I don't want to use the word ego because it's not a personality. It's this thing that's trying to grab hold of something for itself.
Yeah, I think one thing is I don't know um if that process, I would not necessarily put that process as a thing that's good or bad. It's just a noticing that it's happening. I think the just even the act of noticing is its own superpower. So yes, I could have the urge to reach out to someone. Have I even noticed that urge? Right? Just noticing it is really the superpower. um but then again, and this goes back to one of my ultimate fascinations. It's with thoughts. I cannot say that I know what the mind is, or if there's even a mind at all, but we can all, without arguing, say that they're thoughts, right? And thoughts are, I think, the tension and the pool of thoughts is usually a pool. The tension we experience within thought streams is usually perpetrated by the thing that says I or me is the thought. So I'm drawn to talk to someone, or to reach out to someone, or something like that, right? The strength of that pull, sometimes I notice it's a pull to I need to call that person. Meanwhile, or I need to reach out to that person. But what is that I? So when I realize the distinction between just a draw and I feel like that difference, being able to see what's going on under the stream, it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, it shows you where you're acting as an agent separate from.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's so curious because like it doesn't. I just I'll fall into the dream of the person, aware that I'm in the dream of a person, having to play out the dream of a person. It's so
Yep.
weird.
Yep. Yeah, and it's still part of the what I would call the glorious dance.
that is that is.
Yeah.
So I took some notes. I want to ask you some stuff. So where did the idea, was it your first book, is glorious this glorious dance, thoughts and contemplations about who we are? Was that your first book?
No, that's my fifth I think it's my fifth book. I think it is. Yeah, but the others were more. One was on self-development, and the others were poetry. Yeah, but this is my first contemplative book.
When you wrote the first book, had you been privy to this level of experiential
No,
awareness?
no,
Okay.
no.
And then along the way, you did some poetry, and then this book came into being. Where did
Yeah.
where did it come from? Like,
Well, this so as I write in this glorious dance, the it's so obvious and it's so beautiful to see the pull between right and wrong, good or bad, nonsense and not nonsense, truth and not non-truth, um, hate and not hate, death and aliveness. It's our experience is made up of that. I want this, I don't want this. I like this, I don't like this. I hate these people, I don't hate these people. Um, a lot of our experience is tainted with what I now call the the sickness of eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And while we while we sometimes want to talk about non-duality, is this seeing that they are not two and all of that, non-duality becomes yet another another division from duality. And I realized you can't really um there's nothing wrong with the pull between polarities. And when you look at it, when you're comfortable with it, you see that it's kind of like a dance, right? From far away, when you see two people dancing, you think they're fighting, right? You think they're punching. You move closer and you see, oh, it's a waltz. They move in different directions, one leg forward, one leg back. Then there seems to be the holding of the other and creating of the idea or the symbolism of oneness. It is in fact, to me, it is in fact so obvious that everything that's happening is the dance of God. So the glorious dance for me is I mean, when I had the idea, it was oh my God, everything is in its right place, every single thing. So what I did with the book was just more of the, oh my God, have you guys noticed this? Oh my God, wow, like this is it. So it wasn't the book isn't a teaching in anything. It's really not a teaching in anything. In fact, I start with talking about, like, see, um if a deer knows how to have sex, nobody taught it to have sex. It did not go to sex education. um a a toad uh croaks and the females are listening there for the one with the juiciest voice. None of this was taught. So why do we ever think that we know anything about anything, or we are controlling anything, or that we have this agenda? What are you doing? Everything is part of the whole, and in fact, everything is the whole. So that's what inspired the book, and I wrote from that vantage point. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, the vantage point of just noticing and seeing what's going on. And the dance is interesting because as we sit here and have this conversation, and I recognize that there is no good or bad, that the mind and perspective makes it so. Like I can engage with you and know this to be true, but the moment I step over there, Melissa asks me if this person was a bad person, a person from history or something. Like, is this a bad guy? I can't,
Yeah.
like, I've had those debates in my past and they're energetically draining. It's not even worth talking about, because it's just like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the things he did was bad. Like, this guy hurt millions of people. He's a bad guy.
Yeah,
So
I like to say that's still part of the divine dance.
that's what I mean when when you describe it is I think I think what I'm trying to recognize or I'm trying to point out is the living and being in this state of awareness and then moving completely dropping it and moving into what the world would be considered as a practical experience in the world. And I guess I just wonder like how you navigate conversations. Do you drop this all this right now and just allow Shay to have opinions about politics or have opinions about history or the future?
Yeah, I mean, Cher has opinions about these things, but also realizes at the core that none of it matters. And when none of it matters, I mean, to me, it's not even a spiritual or non-spiritual thing, which obviously there's no distinction. But it's that you realize there's nothing personal anywhere. My viewpoints or my what I call my realizations and my standpoints and my views and my the hats I wear as as an agile coach in my day job, which is obviously different than the child of my mother. All of these are they are there's not any me that's doing anything. And so if there's no me that's doing anything, then there's no me that's even doing anything of the perceived others. So it's just in some ways, there's just a combobulation of just utter nonsense going on. That's how I like to put it. So whether I catch a glimpse of insight, seeing an interaction between myself and another, or I'm totally lost in the interaction between myself and others, to me, it doesn't matter anymore. And I say this ultimately, we can all debate this. We can live as spiritual as we want. In another 50 years, I'm not going to be alive, or most likely not going to be alive in another 50 years. And in another maybe 20 years after that, nobody would probably remember that I existed. It's like, it's a miracle that anything is happening. So I can't, our sense of wanting to grab and be perfect and be different and be enlightened and all of that, it's a waste of time. So I can just live my life. I'm going to probably after this, I'm going to drink coffee. I'm going to be on the phone with friends to plan activities for this evening. I'm probably going to at some point lay on my couch, turn on my TV, scroll through maybe Hulu, Netflix, and see that there's nothing I'm interested in. Get up. I mean, something, but it's everything that's happening. This is where I go back to language in Christianity. Everything is happening in God as God. So the getting lost is God. The getting found is God. There's just nothing that's not God. So I don't claim, or I can't claim ownership of, and in fact, even physical property. I say I've never had anything, and I've never lost anything. It's not just my experience. It's what I see. Everything that we claim as mine was never yours. It was given. Anything that was taken from you was never you losing anything. It was taken. There's nothing. There's no you to claim anything. That's just the truth.
Oh man. Um yeah, I've got there's a question here. I'd like to just say, we've got about 15 minutes left, so if anybody watching has any questions for Shay, go ahead and put them in the chat and I'll ask them. This is just I'm so glad that we were able to do this.
Well, same here. I enjoy this.
So here's a question. It says, so his sense of self is just along for the ride. I wonder what makes him get up in the morning.
um, yeah, there are so many places I could take this from. Um, there are mornings I do not want to get up because I want to sleep. But the question is, what exactly is doing all of that? That's not me. It's not me that's doing it. Let's put it this way, there are interactions between, let's talk about the body for a second and the mind. The body has its own functionings, right? If I have a good good rest, I probably wake up feeling a lot energized. If I had Let's talk about the mind. The mind has a project that it's excited to get to, and I wake up and there's a remembrance of the project. There seems to be an excitation to head to that. So then I get up and say, "Whoa, I enjoyed getting up this morning. Whoa, I then claim ownership of that experience, but it's not me doing that. It just seems to be happening. So there are going to be moments I'm excited to get up. There are moments I'm not excited to get up. But is it truly me that's excited, who's getting up or not getting up? I've never caused sleep and I've never caused waking up. So why is it me that thinks I'm doing anything? When waking up happens, it happens. you know. So there's not a and this is not even me. It's not about me, share here. It's the same for everybody. Nobody has ever done anything. Nobody has ever been excited to wake up or not excited to wake up. The getting up in the morning seems to just happen by itself.
Yeah, that's been my experience too, and yeah, it comes and it goes. There was a good stretch of time where I was really into video games, and my first thought in the morning would be like, when can I play computer today? And then eventually that went away, and I would wake up and a lot of times amazed that existence was even a thing. So there was no thought. The thing that I've experienced is the awareness that the challenge and the discomfort that appears in my life as I do things I don't want to do seems to be shaping this organism in a way that is making it more competent and helpful to itself and its environment. So I think parsing through, I think there in the realm of non-duality and the duality inherent in non-duality, there's this opportunity for an individual to look at their lives and look at what they're interested in being or interested in realizing for themselves and the dream of their own life, and then work. And my experience has been working towards that along with the ultimate reality that you, me, my environment, learning and listening. Like that's why like self-development is really challenging, because for me self-development is more about listening and watching than doing and achieving.
Mm, okay. Yeah, I see that.
I think
Yeah.
the doing and achieving is already it's already here. We've arrived. So there's nothing to really achieve or really do because everything's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that perspective. Uh, I also see the perspective of, oftentimes when we talk about um, being in any one of our activities, when we're trying to do things for the common good in good faith, um, there needs to also be the consciousness of the fact that you're also doing harm.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, you can't. Yeah, like by not by belief systems and ideas about what would be or could be or should be helpful are completely ridiculous.
yep.
You you can never
Yep.
know. Now you can have a thought that says this would be helpful and then do it, and but like there's no one that did it. There's no claim to it.
Exactly. So, I mean, I look at when we talk about, renewable energy and using EVs and things like that, which is it's a fantastic thing. It helps the environment. Okay, now the batteries are being made are are
Yeah.
causing damage to, to the world. So it's like we have to be able to realize the two sides of the coin. Every coin has two sides. The light also casts darkness.
So Bird asked this question here that I think he did a good job of putting to words what I was trying to say. He says, even the most liberated person have to ask himself, why am I putting effort into anything at all? What does spreading the word achieve for him on a personal level? Is the hope to have people yielding control? So the question is, why put effort into anything at all?
Um,
But I think I could answer it for you, but I'll let you answer it.
yeah. One is I'm not sure. Since we're talking in this language, I'm not sure I'm doing anything. That's one. I don't have any agenda to do anything. I mean, I don't have an agenda to do anything. As a matter of fact, I find that when I do these days, when I do things, I don't have an end goal in mind. I don't have an outcome in mind because there's there's nothing that can be. I do not own anything, and I could never own anything. It's just impossible. So what happens? What I experience is the push and pull towards things. Sometimes it feels. I mean, I could be on my way to being on this podcast, and then my house explodes, right? Then that becomes the next thing to the thing that I'll focus on instead of this interview, right? Things seem to happen, but I can't even claim ownership of any of this. I could go back to listen to this recording. I'm like, why did I say that? Like, I don't think that I could have said it differently. There's It's not me that's doing anything. So I think from a particular perspective, it's just the enjoyment of the experience of being. That's it for me.
So is it like a contextual pool that you enter into when you go from an agile meeting, like an agile work meeting, to yourself in your house to this podcast? Is it like you're transitioning into a different pool?
um, at some point, I would say that had been the case, but right now, I wouldn't say that I necessarily wear hats. I am my I'm myself in every. So I don't think it's just a continuous, to me, like more or less a continuous flow. Yeah.
Can I ask
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
many
Yeah. Yeah.
how many Earth years old are you?
I'm 42.
42. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
38.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Man. So along the way, I guess along the way, I would imagine that when you were becoming hip to this or getting to know yourself in this way, along the way, it was like you would be Shay for a little bit, then you'd remember, and then you'd be Shay, and then you'd remember until the point to where now you're in a continuous state of awareness.
I wouldn't say that there's a continuous state of awareness. No, there's not that. I just think the difference is realizing that I don't need to be in a continuous state. um, it's I'll use this analogy. You're in a dream and life is happening in the dream, and then suddenly you pause and you're like, wait, what is all this? I remember this house 2 minutes ago was shaped differently. This doesn't feel real. Then you realize, oh, it's a dream. So you're like, oh, it's a dream. Let me craft something. Let me create something out of the dream. So as you're creating something out of the dream, you then forget that it's a dream, right? So over time, you realize, oh, okay, I want to make sure that I remember that it's a dream, right? So that I'm not bothered by the content of the dream. So you're going so you're struggling with the push and pull of forgetting or not forgetting. But at some point, you realize, oh, it's all a dream. So let me be the dreamer. Let me be comfortable being the dreamer, because at the end of the day, this is not as real as we think it is. If an alligator is chasing me in this dream, I better run. Or I could stop and fight the alligator. Either way, it doesn't matter, because the dream is the dream. And at some point, we all gloriously wake up. Oh, well, this dreamer wakes up and realizes none of the content of the dream was ever real. So I, who am in the dream and outside of the dream, I also realized the dream characters are also the dreamer, who is also me. So I don't need to create any separation between my dream. Am I dreaming or not dreaming? Am I myself or am I playing the character Seye? I'm always going to play the character Seye. I'm also always going to be the dreamer. There's just the dream, the expression of the dream, the content of the dream, every part of it is the divine. So to me, I'm happy to be lost in the dream.
That's so great. One of the things I started noticing was, on YouTube, I would end up listening to all these teachers like Francis Lucille and Krishnamurti and Vernon Howard, just these people that would show up, and it was almost like I was entering I was their voice or listening dropped the dream of my life, and I was able to be in this state that you're describing. And that was when it clicked for me that how lucky how lucky am I that I don't even have to think about anything you just said, that I can just watch you describe for me what we are. There's no effort and no will required at all.
Yep.
And it's like,
yep.
One of the things that's been challenging for me is learning how to be uncomfortable and trust. Just trust that, like, psychologically speaking, things are working themselves out, and I don't need to know what the next moment has to be.
Yeah, and we can't even. I think that ultimately is the practice. As a matter of fact, I said the only thing, if there's anything anybody has to ever do in this journey that we call it, if there's anything to do at all, if there's any practice for myself, for anybody, it's a practice of letting go. And that practice of letting go is realizing that there's no outcome you can own. There's nothing you can do. But just realize that the next moment you don't own it. You can't shape it. It's not yours to control. Nothing. So so in essence, I could say something like, oh, I want to have a prosperous future. I'm going to save, I'm going to invest, and all the good stuff. Doesn't guarantee that prosperous future, because I could realize next week that I have cancer and I have to spend every single thing that I saved to treat my cancer and die of cancer, right? We don't know anything, right? And so if we don't know anything, we need to fall into the arms of the lover, knowing that we are always carried by it. Yes, there's going to be moments where we doubt. There's going to be moments where we can't see clearly. I think at least for me, the comfort is realizing that when I can't see clearly, when I'm in doubt, even that is part of the play.
Beautiful, Seye. Yeah, I thank you so much for
Oh no,
coming
my
on the
pleasure.
show. Yeah, if you found this on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or wherever you found this, have any questions for Seye. I will just start keeping track of them, and when we get enough questions, we'll do this again.
Yeah,
If
please.
you're open to it, if you're open to
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, I'm always excited to talk about these things.
Yeah, so please, if you have any thoughts or you have had any similar experiences, let us know, and we'll continue the conversation. And Seye, I hope you have a most excellent rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Adam. I'll talk to you later.
I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. Okay, well, that was it. Thank you so much for hanging. And if you enjoyed the show, please like or subscribe. It really helps me as I continue to grow the channel. Any thoughts you may have about what you just listened to, post them in the comments. Any ideas for topics or guests, send them my way. I'd like to continue building and growing this and improve the show. So thank you guys so much for being here. And yeah, stay excellent. We'll see you on the next one.